Just a second. Okay, so we are recording the session. I should let you know that anybody who is a minor, we have written permission from parents to record the session and to later post the session. So I don't need lots of people asking me if we've considered it, because we have. Thank you to those people who brought it up. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. As I said, tonight's session will be recorded. It's going to be posted probably in the next couple of days on BEKI's website under the learning menu. If you go all the way down, it'll say online schmoozes or something like that. And it'll be in there for everybody to rewatch the matches and learn for themselves. And thank you all of you who are willing to be recorded for that purpose. Both Jim, who will be introduced to you in just a little while, and Noam will be sharing their screens tonight for games. The games are being played on chess.com, and maybe Noam can say a word about that when he does his introduction. And I will tell you that they will be playing simultaneous games. So at almost every point, unless it's at the end, Jim will be playing one USY challenger, while Noam will be playing the person who is on deck. And so there will be two games going on. But unless you have dual monitors enabled for your own particular situation, you're not going to be able to see both on the screen at the same time. So if you want to be able to toggle between the two games, you'll need to go to where it tells you up on the top of your screen where you get a speaker view or a gallery view. I have to make sure that it will, once we're sharing more than one screen, it will probably give you the choice of watching one or watching two. And you can do that at your own leisure. While Jim is playing each game, his opponent will be in a breakout room. As I said before, sort of like a soundproof booth. So that if Jim makes comments for the benefit of our spectators and they're learning what's going on, his opponent won't be able to hear those. For everyone's sake, we're going to ask that everyone, once our introductions are all done, we're going to ask that everybody but Jim be muted so that there are no distracting background noises. Don't take any offense at that. We're just trying to concentrate on the program at hand. We will allow for questions and answers at the end of the program after the games are played. That's correct, Jim, right? Not during your little correct. Mini comments. Okay.
Right.
To ask a question of Jim, to ask a question or make a comment to Jim that we'll do at the end, as before, and a lot of you have not done this before for our schmooze session, so I'll explain it again. If you have a question or comment, please send that to me in the chat. You can send it to everyone or to me specifically because I'm going to be monitoring the chat for that. And I will take down names in the order they come in. Only send me the word question or the word comment. Do not send me your question in the chat. That would just be redundant. I'll call on you to ask your question, okay? And you can ask it however you want to. I'll ask you to unmute as I call on you. And then when you're done with your question or comment, I'll ask you to, or you can figure out that you should mute again while Jim responds to your question, or Noam, or whoever else you may be addressing the question to. Does anybody have any questions about the tech? Okay, that's great. We're gonna, we're doing a few things that we don't usually do. So if there are any delays, because we're trying to figure out the tech, because we've got lots of different people doing different things, just bear with us. We're trying our best. I hope you enjoyed the program this evening. I'm going to turn things over right now to Rachel Beshevkin, who is going to tell stories about Jim, I guess.
No, we're keeping
Okay.
this. We're keeping this totally official. But I do want to give a shout out that Harriet Friedman is here tonight. If anyone wants to do a private chat to her, please, not to everybody. She's taking orders for Hanukkah stuff. Hanukkah is a month away. And if you want to send a private chat just to Harriet, you can place your order for candles and dreidels and whatever. All right. Thanks, Daryl. And thank you, Noam, for managing all of the technical details for tonight's schmooze, so that we can see one another and also see at least one chessboard at a time. And thanks to BEKI USY for joining us for our weekly schmooze. We are delighted to have a multi-generational gathering tonight. So we have 4 USYers here ready to play chess: Aaron and Caleb and Ethan and Noam. And thanks to all of you in advance. And thank you to our featured guest, Jim Eade. Jim is an American chess master, a tournament organizer, author, and publisher. One of his books that you might recognize is Chess for Dummies, which has sold hundreds of thousands of copies worldwide. Jim was introduced to chess by his father, and I can tell you that he was the star of the chess club at our high school. Jim continued to play during college years and thereafter. In addition, he has served in leadership roles in the chess playing community and in the chess publishing community. In 2018, the U.S. Chess Federation honored him with the Career Outstanding Achievement Award. Currently, Jim's focus is on teaching and on directing the Eade Foundation, which sends chess sets and chess boards all around the world to organizations that cannot otherwise afford them. Even though he doesn't play much chess anymore, Jim has agreed to games with our USYers tonight, for which we're most grateful, and we'll also have time for him to talk about chess. Jim is joining us from California, and now we're going to have Noam guide us on what happens next.
All right. Hello, everyone. Again, thanks for coming. I'll try to make this short and sweet just so we can get into the games. So again, thanks for coming. Doing this on Zoom allows us to have a lot of freedom with respect to the format. So here's how the games are going to work. As Daryl mentioned, Jim will be sharing his screen as he plays online against each of our competitors. And our games will be played on chess.com, which is the most popular chess website. And the time control for each game will be 5-3, meaning that for each game, each player has 5 minutes for all of their moves, and each move they make will add 3 seconds to their clock. Games will likely last around 10 minutes, possibly less, depending on how well our players do. So we'll see about that. So Jim will play 3 games, first against Ethan Lavi, then against Caleb Freiman, and then against Aaron Bruce. During the first 2 of those games, I will also be playing a game with the same time control against the player who is next in line against Jim. And Jim's opponent each game will be in a breakout room so that they can concentrate and so that they don't hear Jim's live in-game analysis and commentary. So
I forgot the thing
without
about
further ado,
concentrating.
Yes, that is also going to be important. So without further ado, I say we can get started with the chess games.
I do have one question because I'm not used to this at all. How do you offer a draw?
There is a button to draw, and you won't need it, but there is also a button to resign. On the right side of the board. You'll see a moves when the game starts. You'll see a draw button.
Okay.
Underneath where the moves are, on the moves list.
The opposing player can accept the draw or decline it.
Yeah, that's right. So here, so if we could put Ethan in a breakout room, and Ethan can send the challenge to Jim, and Jim will share his screen. All right, and I will share my screen as well. Daryl, I hope that is.
All right, the challenge has been set.
Okay. I'm not seeing it.
Jim, you have to be in chess.com/live.
Live. Okay.
If you look at the bottom right of your screen, I think there's a pop-up.
Yeah, as
Oh,
soon as
yeah.
you're in live.
Got it.
Yep,
Thank you,
there
guys.
you go.
Okay.
So for this game, Jim is black and Ethan is white.
All right. So this is
Caleb,
called
you
the
ready?
Sicilian. And it's
Yes,
just
no.
the name of the opening. And this is called the accelerated. And what we're trying to do is play the black bishop to the G7 square to the wing to attack the center, because the center is the most important part of the board.
Like we have a fellow dragon player here.
Yes, it's the accelerated dragon. And so you can see that I'm attacking all the dark squares in the center. I don't know if you can see that, but the center squares are the 4 in the middle of the board, and the dark squares are attacked by my pawn, my knight, and my bishop from the wing.
Jim, if you want to highlight squares or draw arrows for emphasis,
Yeah.
you can use the right click on your mouse, and you can right click a square to highlight it in red. So sort of more emphasized stuff if you want to.
Okay.
Though it might be an extra setting, so I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not,
But we can enable it at the end of this game to make sure.
no problem. All right, knights. I prefer knights in a lot of positions, but in this position, I would like to take his bishop. And well, where should I put it? I'll put it here. Because now I have 2 bishops, if you can see, and he only has 1. And often in chess, the 2 bishops together are stronger than the bishop and knight. Of course, it depends upon the position, but the majority of positions tend to favor the 2 bishops. Now that is provocative. All right, so I'm going to move here. I was thinking about another type of combination, but I don't think it would have worked out too terribly well for me. And I think this is a little stronger. So now I'm going to play old school type, and I'm going to cripple his pawn structure. You can now see his pawns are not abreast anymore.
So in this case, the king is a bit weaker.
The king is definitely weaker. That's a very good point, because the light squares around the king, I don't think I can highlight them, but the light squares around the king are now attacked by the bishop, which is very close to it. So it's now a little bit scary, not terribly scary, but a little bit scary. Okay.
You may have been confused by that last move, some people.
Yeah, and this is checkmate. Very sorry. But we'll go over the game afterwards, I guess. And
Yeah.
it's
Jim,
telling me
so-
that I won, so I should be very proud.
Yes,
But
you did. And it
thank-
says you had no mistakes and no blunders.
Wow. Okay,
So
let's just
excellent.
leave it
So I
at
can,
that. Let's quit
so
now.
can I
I'll-
let Ethan back in? Should
Yeah,
I
we'll
let
let
Ethan
Ethan-
back in?
We're gonna
I
let
will-
Ethan
I'll-
back in, and Jim will provide some post-game analysis.
Yeah, should I
Noam?
work to see if I can get if Jim wants to draw arrows or highlight squares? I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
can make that happen.
Can I let Ethan back in then?
Yeah, that would be good. And Caleb and I agreed to a draw so that Caleb can watch the analysis.
Okay.
That's very nice of you, Noam. So how do I replay the game, or does someone else do that for me?
So you can press the analyze button if you want to.
Analyze.
A little
Okay.
lower, yeah.
So then you can just go through the moves, and sometimes it'll
Okay.
give you a game report, but no need to look at the game report. It's just all computer
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, the first move is what we call 1E4, which is, you can see it's the 4th rank, and it's the E file. So 1E4, every move has an alphanumerical designation that determines what the move is, and no other piece can play there. It tells you exactly what piece to move to what square. And so 1E4, in the old English descriptive terminology, we would say pawn to king 4, which is the king file and it to the 4th rank. But the alphanumerical designation is more precise. So we say nowadays we say E4. And I played the Sicilian defense, which is just a name. All opening names have their conventions, and there's no rhyme nor reason to them. But this is the one that it's, and so I guess I just press these buttons, right? Or click on, okay, I get it now. All right, so this is a good move because it centralizes the knight. In other words, it moves the knight towards where it can attack the center squares. You can see the knight attacks the 2 dark squares in the center, and that's D4 and E5. Now my pawn is attacking D4. So what I'm going to do is play a move that prepares me to move my bishop. It's an accelerated move of what we call the Sicilian dragon defense, which is very popular at one time and is now less popular, but still playable. The accelerated dragon is a way to go a little bit more deeply into the position. Now, this is a centralizing move as well, so I'm not going to criticize it. It's not necessarily the most aggressive move, though. D4 would probably be the most aggressive move. So I can't decide. So I'm piling on D4 because that's my idea, control the dark squares in the center. And so this A3 move, I would say, is not the best because it does not do anything towards the center and it does not help the development of the pieces. So that would be my comment about why. And so this bishop move is consistent with my entire strategy of controlling the dark squares in the center. Bishop to C4 is a good move. It centralizes the bishop. It attacks the center square. It attacks the D5 square. You'd say it's on the fifth rank and on the queen file. So we call that, or the D file rather, and we call that D5. So the bishop and pawn and knight are all attacking D5. So this white square is pretty much whites. And these dark squares are now pretty much blacks. So I played D6 to emphasize my control over E5. He castles, which is a good move. I play knight to F6 because I've got to develop in castle 2. The king's safety is one of the elements of chess. You cannot ignore your king and you cannot let it be exposed to attack unless you're very, very careful. And so now bishop D5, I think, is just a wasted move because it moves the bishop twice and you still have this other bishop back there doing nothing. So I would have preferred to try to move that bishop out into the game rather than move the same piece twice. Plus, the bishop is generally considered to be just a tiny bit better than the knight. So I take it with my knight. He recaptures, which is a good move. And so knight to D4 is a fairly straightforward move. It occupies the center square. Rather than controlling it, I'm now occupying it. Now B3 is a question mark move because it ignores my follow-up move. My follow-up move is going to put some pressure on white's position because I am now pinning the knight. Pin is a tactic that we call in chess. It's just a name for a tactic. And what it does is paralyzes the knight because the knight cannot move without exposing the queen to capture. So the bishop is pinning the knight to the queen. So the knight is now paralyzed and it really can't be supported by any other piece. And I've got 2 pieces attacking it. And you're not going to give your queen up for either one of my minor pieces, the bishop or the knight. So it's a bit of a nasty situation for white now. Oops, I went ahead too far. Sorry. So he played bishop to B2, fine move. There's nothing better that I can see. And knight, so my take with the knight, and then he recaptures with the pawn, which is wise. You don't want to give up your queen. And now I played a kind of a nasty move because it's attacking the rook. And the rook is worth 5 units of force. And the bishop is only worth 3, generally speaking, maybe 3 1/4. But anyways, the rook is more precious than the bishop. And so I'm attacking it. So I'm forcing it to move, and it moves. Very good. And so I castle to get my king out of safety because I'm going to prepare something that's a little bit nasty. Now, rook b1 is a question mark move because it ignores my threat. And my threat is to strike at the center, occupy the e5 square, and now have a fist tightened around the d4 square. There's no way that white is going to get to that. That's control of that square. I've got it. But more importantly, I've opened up a line for my queen to enter into the game. And this is going to become critical because it's a very normal move to play that, but it is what we call in chess a blunder because it overlooks my main threat, which e5 was a disguise. It was a hidden threat of playing queen g5. What's the big deal about queen g5? Well, the bishop will prevent the king from running away to the other squares. It has to go in the corner because there's no piece you can interpose. You cannot let me take your king. So you must move to the corner and then I can deliver checkmate. So the e5 move was preparing this maneuver of the queen to g5 and then to g2 to deliver checkmate. And it was overlooked, unfortunately, by my opponent. But the main problem with white's setup was that these pieces on the queen side are not really a factor. And you can see my queen and bishop are attacking on the king side. So these pieces are useless in the defense of the king. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Jim. I think we're gonna move on to our next game, which will be
Okay.
with Caleb, and then I will be playing against Aaron Bruce, who
Okay.
is a deck player.
So
So
Okay.
Caleb, if you could send your
Okay.
challenge,
Wait,
and
should
Jim will
I?
share his screen.
Wait, should we
And-
for a second?
unshare.
I think it makes sense for me to send my challenge once I go to the breakout room.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
about to put you.
All right, awesome.
Okay. In the meantime, can I guide Jim to sort of enable being able to draw arrows mid game so he can like better articulate visually what he's describing?
I'd love to learn.
Okay. So here, I can see your shared screen. Just go to more on the left side and like that toolbar
More on the toolbar.
on the left side
Oh, got it.
of your screen. So
Okay.
then we can go to where are settings? I'm not sure where the settings are.
I think an easier way, if
Settings is the
Jim, if
bottom
you go
left.
to where, Jim, if you go up to
Yeah, maybe
next
that's
to where,
bottom then.
Sorry, you're muted, Noam.
if you go, yeah, so okay, if you go to settings there, you can
Yeah.
just click on it. And then, yeah, so now if you go to board and pieces, I think. You can, is it easy? Can you just go back one page to your game?
Let's hope so.
Great, okay, there you go. So now, if you go up next to Ethan's clock, which is currently being blocked by the red. So if you X out of that red
Okay.
error bar, and now you'll see a gear next to the clock. So click on that, and then now if you go to board, hopefully.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, this is my mistake. Sorry, this is going to take just 30 more seconds. If you could go back to your second tab, the live chess tab. I promise this will be very quick. At the top, the live chess. Yeah, great. So now if you go to the gear by the clock at the top. Yeah, now you should be able to see
Highlight last move. Show lead.
Button draws arrows and highlights.
draw. Yeah, right button draws. Yeah.
Right
there.
there.
Got it. And save that.
Yep, now you should be able to do that.
Great.
And you can just
Um,
click and drag the right click for an arrow.
Okay. Okay. I think I got it. That will help me a lot.
Yeah. And Caleb will be sending his challenge pretty soon if he hasn't already.
Well, I'm not going to accept it. Then what are you going to do?
In the meantime,
Should be in my bottom right, right? When it comes. Sorry, my dog just opened
okay,
it.
yeah, you should have it now.
Okay, I don't see a challenge.
You do
Do I
have
have to go
to
into
be in
live?
live. Oh, if you could just close out of the tab. Oh, I see the issue. Okay. If you could close out of the tab that you're in right now,
Okay.
or
This-
that works too. Okay, great.
All right. Now I'm going to play something different this time, just because we already played the Sicilian. I'm going to play that one. And again, it's a naming convention. But it came about because the English and the French played a telegraph match back in the 19th century. And this was, the English team played e4 and the French team played the pawn up 1 square from the king. And it was thereafter called the French defense. So that actually had some historical reason for it. Okay. We don't always have good reasons for our naming conventions, but in this case, it's relatively reasonable. All of these moves are very consistent and solid. There's nothing that's unusual about this. We're all controlling the center or trying to control the center. He's put the challenge to my bishop. He attacked it with the pawn. The bishop is worth more than the pawn, so I retreated my bishop. I don't want to let the pawn capture it. Okay, that's a very reasonable move. Makes perfect sense, castling. I'm playing my knight out, so I could theoretically prepare to castle. And he attacks it like some kind of nasty guy. Now, should I do that or should I put the question to it? No, I think I'm going to go here. Now, this is an interesting position. And by interesting, I mean, I don't know exactly what the plan should be. So that's interesting to me, because usually in a chess game, the plan is pretty clear. If you're a strong player and you've played a lot of chess, then you kind of know what to do. But in this kind of position, I am not 100% clear what I should do. So I'm going to try this. Now this is actually kind of a little bit suspect in some ways. It's not obvious what I'm supposed to do here. So I'm making it interesting, at least interesting to me. And the way I play chess now, as long as it's interesting, I'm having fun, which is all I really care about. So now I've got a little bit of a threat here. I guess he can't hear me. So if I attack his bishop again with a pawn, I would drive it back and take it. And when he would capture with the pawn, I would take that pawn. So I have a little material threat. Material is what we use for the unit of force. The force is the primary element in chess. And the pieces all have different powers. The queen is given a power of 9. So he won't let me do that. Sneaky, sneaky. So I will run away. And running away is a good character attribute in chess. So this position is now quite interesting. I'm not entirely sure what either of our plan is. I'm putting the rook on the same file as the queen so that the knight can move and expose the queen to capture. And that's something that's kind of a little trick that strong players try to use to befuddle their opponent. Because if you allow me to just capture, move the knight for free, because you're exposed the queen to capture, then I can move the knight anywhere I want without really suffering any repercussions. So freedom is an essential quality to chess. It's not only the force of the piece, how strong the piece is. Okay, now this is interesting. How do I do this properly? Okay, I have to calculate this, but I think this is correct. I'm just a little bit off on what I thought was going to happen. This should be okay. But I can't quite play the maneuver that I wanted to play. But that doesn't mean that my position is not better. I think it still is. Knight there. No, I think that's a mistake. Can I prove it? Who knows? Okay, now I have just won a piece that unless I'm missing something, he cannot recapture it. Okay, now that's a good move. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's actually quite an interesting move. And I'm going to play here. Now, what we're dealing with now is tactics. And tactics is the word we use. Strategy is the word we use for long range plans and that sort of thing. Tactics is when there's a real give and take, a little hand-to-hand combat sort of thing. And tactics require a significant amount of calculation. And if you calculate well in tactics, okay, so he retreated. And I don't think I will do that after all. Okay. I think I will prevent his queen from coming to that square. I have outsmarted myself a little bit just by being super cautious. There may not have been a need to be super cautious. Okay. So now he's attacking my king's side, which happens to be the queen side of the board, the right-hand side from my perspective. And so he's trying to whip up something that would be nasty, mean, something that, and I'm going to do the same to him. That's where his king is, so I'm going to storm it with my pawns. And that's a very good move. And can I do this? I think I can get away with, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, there we go. I think I can do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I might have been asking for it there. I might have been asking for it. Yes. Okay. So, alas and alack. Nastiness. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this time to attack his bishop. And now outsmarting myself. I've caused myself more trouble than it's worth. But it's possible that I can get away with it. I'm very, very unsure of myself right here. Okay, I should be calculating this and I'm not because I'm just lazy. I'm just a lazy person. You can see that I'm making my forces attack his king. So I just have this general feeling that things will work out for me. And that is check. He must give up his queen. And so now I'm feeling pretty confident. I won. Okay. So now I analyze the game. We bring Caleb back in
Yeah.
and
You
analyze.
probably won't get the same like whole computer thing going on, though you don't need it.
Caleb, you're going to bring Caleb back and then you can analyze the game?
Yeah, he should be back in any second.
Okay.
I'm here, by the way, if we're looking for me.
Oh, okay. I can't see you, but all right. So I was just talking generally about our game. E4 is a standard move. Bobby Fischer said it was best by test. And since I played the Sicilian last time, this time I played the French. And NC3 is a normal move. It's fine. D4 is the most frequently played move. So I just go with my E6, D5. Everybody does that in the French. And now we're transposed into an exchange variation of the French. And I play it a little bit like the Carol Khan, if anyone's familiar with that opening. This is the Carol Khan structure. And the idea is that the bishop here has freedom to move along this diagonal anywhere it wants. So this is a nice little variation, a change from the French, the standard French. Knight to F3 is a typical move. I'm playing bishop to D6 here, which is not necessarily the best move, but it is an aggressive move. And that's what I was looking for here. And bishop to D3 is a good answer to it. And bishop G4 pins the knight to the queen. So this knight cannot move without exposing this queen. And so the queen is more valuable than the bishop. You don't want to do that. So the knight is effectively frozen. So quite wisely, white puts the question to the bishop. I don't want to let this pawn attack this bishop because this bishop is more valuable. So I'm scared and I decide that I am going to run away. And running away is not bad in chess. And castling, always king safety. King safety is one of the primary elements of chess. Now I'm getting ready to do the same thing. I'm not actually going to castle kingside, but he doesn't know that yet. So this is a good move. Just put the pressure on the E7 square. Very smart. I just continue my development because I wasn't really planning on castling on the king side. I don't want my king here. I want my king here. So, but I'm trying not to tip my hand. So bishop E3 is good because I want to move my queen away, but then the knight gets a little, it's under pressure. So what do I do? What do I do? I take the pressure off. Okay, so he plays bishop H4. Now I get to play what I want, queen to C7. Now I'm prepared to castle on the queen side, which is really what I wanted. Rook F to E1 is good, and I castle. I have accomplished my plan, which is develop all my pieces, get my king to relative safety, and then I am free now to storm his king side with my pawns. So this is the ideal setup from my perspective. Queen E3, I didn't really understand. I wasn't sure what was going on there. It's not necessary for me to understand, but I just thought, well, if the queen is on the E file, I'll put my rook on the E file. Maybe good things will happen. And so bishop to E2, protect the knight. Okay, fine, but it opens up to attack. So now I'm thinking I'm feeling pretty good about my position. Queen has to retreat. So why don't I just take the bishop? Take the knight, take back, take the bishop. This is a piece, a free piece, as far as I could tell. It doesn't look like there's anything that white can do to punish me for capturing that piece. And now I have 3 units of force to my advantage. And that is sufficient for a strong player to win. And but right now it's a fun game. It's a speed game. It's not a serious competition game. So we play on. And so he put his bishop to an aggressive square, and I put my pawn on a square to say, get off of that aggressive square. I don't want you there. So he retreats. And I say, well, you know, I'm going to continue with my theme of storming the king side with my pawns. And he tries this. It's a little bit too little too late, though, because I'm already well underway. And so now that's a good move because it attacks my rook right here. And, you know, I don't want to give up my rook, which is worth 5 for his bishop, which is worth 3. So I just trade it off. I'm happy. That's fine. Because I'm a piece up. So every exchange is to my favor, because the closer we get to an ending, the more that piece advantage is going to tell. It's going to be more and more important as we go along. So he has to get this queen out of the way of my bishop. And so I just keep gumming. You know, I'm bringing all of my forces to the king side now. And he runs away. Smart. Running away is smart. Now, I know what's coming here, but I'm thinking if I can rip open the king side position and expose this king to attack, it's worth losing a piece. I'm giving the piece back, so I'm not really losing anything. But what I'm doing is opening up lines against the king so I can get at it. And so he takes, fine. I'll just take back and look at all my forces aimed at his king, his lonely little king, unprotected. Oh, but he can steal another one of my pawns. Well, I'll just bring my rook into the game. Oh, he has to run away. Now running away is a little scary because now I'm all over white's king. This square right here is under dire threat, can't be protected. It's attacked twice. So what are you going to do? You know, this really just might take the knight. Okay, fine, but there's not much choice there. So now I deliver check, and if he moves the king, I'm going to just take his queen. His queen is no longer protected by any other piece, and I can just capture it. So that will be a queen up, which is much better than just being a piece up. So he just sacrifices it for what it's worth. And now, but he's still under attack, intense pressure. Now, this is as good a move as you can make, but it unfortunately does not work because this is a forced sequence of moves. You cannot play any other move if you're white, excuse me, and it leads to checkmate. So the whole idea is develop your pieces, get your king to safety, and then attack. And that's what I did in this game. Thank you very much for the game. I enjoyed it. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
So next up, our third and final match for the official program will be against Aaron Bruce. So Aaron, if you have the time control set up and everything, you can just send the challenge. And I'm not going to be playing a second game this time. So
Okay.
all on you.
And you can kibitz if you want to Noam.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I don't see the challenge yet.
Jim, if you have 2 different tabs with the live chess open, that might cause an issue. So if you could just close
I do.
one of those 2, then I will text.
Okay, you're right. I did have 2 open. So now I only have 1. Maybe I closed the one he was challenging me on.
He's in a breakout now, so.
How's this? Let's try this. Okay. Now I should only have Zoom and you guys and the shared screen. So I'm on chess.com and Zoom. And I don't have any other tab open except for my personal tab. But I won't share that because it's personal. Now, here I expect to see the challenge in the lower right-hand screen. I didn't see it.
Maybe it says you're in chess.com/play. That might make a difference.
Live
So if you could just change that to, yeah, that might be the issue.
Okay. It was
So-
me. I still don't see the challenge. I'm being polite to Caleb. I don't see any challenge. Am I missing something that you see?
Just give me one moment.
Sure.
I just sent him a message asking if he sent the challenge.
Because I might have lost it. by closing screens that I shouldn't have had open the first hand. 0 blunders, 2 mistakes. Is that its criticism of my game? What 2 mistakes do you think I made? Oh, no, I don't. Okay. So,
Daryl, I think the fastest thing would be if we could bring him back into this room.
yeah, he can listen.
I mean, well, maybe just temporarily.
Okay. Whatever you guys feel comfortable with.
We'll see.
Ah,
All
I
right,
see
there we
him.
go.
American Blitz. Oh, I am white this time. Okay. I'm opening with the queen pawn, or we would call it d4. So he is playing d5, which is a very classical way of proceeding. I'm doing something that we call the London system, which is not anything special. It's just to get out of the opening. My sole objective in all of this is to get out of the opening alive, get into a playable middle game, and then outplay my opponent. That's always been my strategy in chess. I don't like opening analysis. I don't like opening theory. So now I'm going to transpose into what we call the stone wall. You can see that these pawns are all in a setup that is, we call it the stone wall because it's hard to crack through.
Hold up, I'm back in here. I need to go back to the breakout room.
Okay. I didn't say anything untoward. Okay. Perfectly good move. It's a developmental move. It puts no pressure on white's position, so white just goes about its business. Fat, dumb, and happy. It's just going to do his thing. Now this takes the pressure off the d4 square. Now this move is tempting to make to attack the bishop, but the bishop simply retreats, stays on the long diagonal. Now this is actually interesting. What do I do about that? You know, that's a little bit of an ornery move. He's taken the pressure off of the d4 square. I can now move my bishop. It no longer has to protect the f4 pawn. And I'm still not impressed, so I'm going to continue. Now, okay, this is a very reasonable attacking move. I was going to move my queen there anyways. He was attacking my e pawn here, and I had to protect it with my queen. But I was going to place the queen on that square anyway, because I think it's time for me to open the position. Should I do it first? Should I first do it this way? I think I should. I have to drag, so I can't just drop. So first, I'm going to deliver a check, which he must respond to. He has no choice. And I can win a pawn fairly straightforwardly, but I don't know if I want to. I think I'm going to continue with my nastiness. My nasty streak is breaking through now. I think I'm going to continue to be nasty. I'm calculating now because this is getting to be a question of tactics and not just strategy. So everything I do now has to be precisely calculated. I can't make a mistake or an error in judgment. So if I do that, I could lose easily. And you don't want to see me when I lose. I throw fits. I'm just a bad sport. So it's interesting, very interesting. Now, do I have to worry about that? I don't think I do. I might be wrong. But this move C to C4 with a pawn is actually taking all the tension out of the position, so I can strike back at the center. Now that's interesting as well. I'm going to continue with my thinking. All right, is now the time. Do I take first? No, I should not take first. I should take here first. Yes. This has to be calculated precisely because there are all sorts of tactics now. And if you make an incorrect move, one bad move can ruin 40 good moves. So you have to be precise. And this is the tension of chess when played at a very high competitive level. Now that is well done. So it gave me a chance to go wrong, but okay, you want to try it that way? That's okay with me too. Okay, now I have to calculate again. Excuse me for thinking for a second, because I've got the better game, but how do I exploit it? How do I force this? I have two ideas, which means I have to choose. I think I'm going to choose this idea. And I'm thinking, so I'm not talking. Although I often do both at the same time. Okay, now that, do I have to worry about that? Yes, I do. At least I think I do. In any case, I worried about it, so it's all over. Nothing to be done for it now. That's a good try. That's the best try that he can undertake at this moment. I am going to come in this way. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, what am I going to play here? I think I'm going to play here. Is that wise? Is that wise? I don't know. I just don't know. So I think maybe I'll play this first. It's hard when you just don't know. He's trying to move his king so he can connect his rooks, which is a very good idea. It's very, very well timed. And he's okay. Also very, very well thought out. But perhaps I can play this. Okay, now I have to calculate again, because if I go wrong here, this would be not so nice for me. But I believe I can get away with this. That looked pretty forced to me. Okay, so where do I go to escape this harassment? I think I could go here and run away. My goal is to run away. And he harasses, and I run further away. Okay, so 2, 4, 6 pawns. Okay, now this is smart because he's going to try to advance his A pawn and create a bit of nastiness for me. 6, 8. So I am 2 pawns up, so I shouldn't take any time. I don't even know how to look at my time. I think I'll just play here.
You're a minute up, so.
So when you have an extra pawns, you want to trade pieces. Because every time you trade a piece, you get closer to an ending. Now, do I want to do that? That's tricky. So should I run away? I think I should run away. Yes, run away. So each rook exchange, there's one, and if we change another, I'm happy. Okay. So the further the material is reduced, the more the pawns play a factor. Each pawn becomes more, okay, that was, I'm thinking now that I'm going to go ahead with my original plan. Now my pawns are, I have a passed pawn, and now I have 2 passed pawns. By passed pawn, I mean there's no pawn in front of it. So no pawn can take it or prevent it from advancing. Now this is a significant advantage in chess when you come down to the ending, when material is reduced. So there's few pieces on the board. All right, so now he's going to try to be nasty. I know he is. I know he's going to be nasty. I've seen this type before. So what do I do with that type? Try to reduce the material. Okay, that's one way to do it, but is it the best way? Now that bishop is pinned, it cannot move. So now this, unfortunately, his maneuver now is not going to work. And a very interesting game, and love to analyze it if we can get him back.
Good game.
Thank you. And
That was really scary when you like the H file. I was just trying to hold control, but you got me.
well, you know, that was a very interesting game. Let's see. I don't want to. All right. So I played D4, and please comment if you have any comment to make, because otherwise it's just me.
Yeah, sure. I'll give my thoughts. And
yeah. So this is a classic setup, D4, D5, very consistent with classical chess. Now this is an unusual move.
Oh God, I have to play the London. That's what I was thinking.
And it's called the London system. And basically, as I said during the game, my whole idea is to get to a playable middle game, because I don't want to fight opening theory with anybody. And I did this since I was a teenager. The opening theory is just for a different type of chess player than I am. Now, this is a classical way of playing it. It's going towards a Queen's Gambit declined type of setup, which you would know from the Queen's Gambit if you've ever watched that. Now, this is just a way of opening up this bishop so it can enter the game, because this bishop has now been developed beyond this pawn chain. See this pawn chain? We call this a pawn chain because the pawns all protect each other right down to the base, which is hard to attack. So these pawns are solid. and the bishop is outside them, if it was behind them, it would not have any maneuverability. It would have not a lot of mobility, and mobility is power in chess. So it's the force of the power of the piece along with its mobility. And really, the more powerful pieces are the more mobile pieces. So if you can get a smaller piece to be more mobile than another opponent's piece, then you are stronger. So this is why I played this way. Now, this is a good move because it puts the question to my bishop. Do I want to capture it? And if I capture it, it's playable. It's certainly playable, but then you, and some people would say it's best. But I'd like to keep it on the board. I like to keep the tension on when I'm trying to win. If I'm trying to draw, I take it, but I'm trying to win. So this knight is a good move because it prepares the king for castling to safety, and it's a development piece that attacks the center. It attacks both the white squares in the center. Oops, I'm supposed to use that square.
Yeah, and there's a reason not to take the bishop.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't take your dark square bishop because the usual response by white is to take it with the H pawn, so the pawn in front of the rook. And then white can attack on that square, and it could be very dangerous for black.
Right. So that's very well said, because what you want to do with black is castle on the king side, get your king to safety. But if you take this bishop on this square, then I can take it with this pawn and open up this file. So the rook can then move anywhere on this file, and that's directly towards your king. So it's got an element of danger attached to it. So it's a very, very smart thing. If you're going to castle king side, don't take this bishop, or if you do, have a plan. Always have a plan. C5 is a necessary move in order to prepare the rest of your development of your pieces. C3 is typical. I just want to shore up the pawn chain. So you see these pawns are all together, all in a row, protecting one another, except at the base, which is very difficult to attack. So it's very solid, very strong. So knight c6, very normal move. Now I changed the nature of the game by playing the stonewall, because now I've changed the base of the pawn to here, to here. Now this is weaker than the pawn would be here, because this is hard to attack. This is easier to attack, this square. But what I've done is taken control of this square. So I'm calculating that the weakness of this pawn is not as big a deal as control of this center square. This is the one I want. I want control of it. I do not want him to advance. If he can advance, then his problems get very easy to solve.
Yeah, I don't play against the stonewall, so I was sort of improvising here.
Yeah, bishop to d7 really doesn't do much. Sometimes people play it, they fianchetto it on the wing so that they can at least get the piece out off the back rank. The bishop on d7 tends to do nothing in these positions because this pawn tends to block the bishop's mobility. It's like a French dad bishop. So bishop to d3. Now I'm putting it on a very powerful square. I'm influencing this center square. So now my pieces are getting to be in a good. This piece not so much, but my pieces are getting to good squares. C4 I didn't like. Everybody plays it though, so it's it's like so natural to play it, I think. But it releases the tension, so there's no attack on that d4 square anymore. So I simply retreat, and I don't have anything to worry about now. There's no tension in the center unless I create it. Now this is a good move. I was actually surprised that you played it because traditionally you think about castling on the king side. So this H, but I like it because it's threatening to H5 to H4, which would have put the question of my bishop in advance and give you mobility on the king side, which is.
Yeah, I was feeling with the way the stonewall was going and the center was going to be completely locked, so I had to make a play on the side of the board.
That's exactly right. Very well said, because that's exactly what you have to do. But bishop H4 stops that advance of that pawn, puts it and pins this knight to the queen. So again, unfortunately for black, white has now got 3 pieces developed, all of them influencing the game, all of them hitting central squares or attacking a piece that is trying to influence a square. But now this knight is paralyzed and no longer influences the center. So this is why the pin is one of the most important tactics in chess. So he gets out of the pin.
I think, yeah, I was thinking here later in the game, I eventually did play queen to b6. I think queen to b6 immediately would have been more accurate.
Yes.
And my queen just really wasn't doing much, and I realized that. But I think queen to b6 is more accurate because, one, you're also getting rid of that pin, the knight's no longer pinned, and you're also attacking that b2 square. Because
Right.
if you're going to castle queen side here, which is more likely, it's going to be weaker, and I want to build a queen side attack. So I should have played queen to b6 immediately.
I agree. And if you played queen to b6, what would you think I would play?
I think either b3 or rook to b1.
Rook to b1 would be my choice. b3 is certainly playable, but it would tend to open the position up, which I'm not sure I'm ready for right now.
Yeah, I would have liked it if that had happened to you to play b3. That would have
Correct.
been nice for me.
So b3 would have given you more chances, but rook b1 would have taken then your queen is on b6. What's it doing? It's got nothing to threaten. So, but it would have been a better move, I think, than queen c7 for the reason you know, I could have gone wrong. I could have played b3, giving you a lot of chances. So knight h3, normally the knight goes to this square, but knight is going here for a very different reason, because this square might be occupied by this knight. I don't know yet which knight is better placed there, but I do know I got to get my knight out. So this is a good square for it. Now, this is another interesting move because it does attack the weakness. Remember I said that the weakness was moved from the f2 square to the e3 square. So now this knight is attacking it. Very good move. On the downside to it is that I was going to play this anyways, and it protects the pawn. So the knight can't capture it. So now the knight has made a move that may or may not improve its position. The queen definitely improved its position. So now
Jim,
f6. Now I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have a question.
Yeah.
If you could go back one move.
The knight to b4 sacrifice. That's
Um,
amazing.
I see, right, so I see the computer is recommending, so after you play queen to f3,
Okay.
Oh, it's really cool. That is
the
cool.
computer recommended the move knight to b4, which, would you mind like playing that move and so that we can see?
I can just play that.
Black takes, bishop takes.
Yeah, I think you can just
You're putting a
play
lot
it.
of pressure on the king. You get the queen over.
So,
Knight to b4 is attacking that bishop on c2, which white
Correct.
does not want to be
but,
taken.
right, so
And
what
if
happens after c takes b4?
Bishop takes b4.
C takes
And you're-
b4 is critical, right? So now c3. What are they looking?
No, I think c3 is the
I
point,
think
right?
c3 is the point.
Oh yeah, c3.
c3. Yeah, right. Huh, wow, that's pretty cool.
c3, and then I start to cry. Wait a minute. All right. Yeah, this is why we don't play computers anymore. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really
Wow,
threatening. That's a strong move.
wow.
How do I avoid losing a piece here? If
I think you just
oh
You
yeah,
don't.
this is
play it
bad.
out.
I don't know what to do here.
I was thinking of some queenside sacrifices, but not this early in the game.
It didn't occur to me either. The computers
Anyway.
never miss these chances. This is very interesting. Now, there may be a way to escape that, but I won't waste our time trying to find it. If the computer is looking at it and recommending it, I would take its word for it. It must be good. It wasn't something that I seriously considered, and I want to go back.
See, let's just go back a few moves.
Yeah, there you go.
And so knight b4 instead of f6 looks like a strong move. It certainly would have made it very difficult for me. Because I would say knight b4 and c takes knight, then I would, in my mind, I would have been calculating bishop b4, and I don't see anything there. But instead of bishop takes b4, c3, oh my goodness. See, I didn't go that far deep into the position. So that was very interesting. So f6. You're trying to break with e5? Is that correct?
Break with e5, make that bishop on h4 not really do much, you know, and castle queenside, just keep the game okay. But mainly the e5 break.
You might have wanted castle queenside in this position before you played f6.
Not legal.
Correct.
Also, even if it was legal, which it isn't, because you can't castle through a square that's being checked for people.
That's a very
to
good
know.
point.
So the bishop's attacking.
Aaron's pointing
d8.
out the thing that I overlooked, that the bishop controls that square. The king cannot move to castle because You cannot move through check.
And even if the king could, I wouldn't want to castle anyway, because then you could take my rook, which would end up on d8 after I castled.
Well, yeah. I was overlooking that. I was just thinking, if you once you play f6, then I have this move, and that changes everything.
Yeah, I
So
I just didn't see that.
Yeah. So let's think about, you want to castle queenside. You can't do it right now. Would it make any sense to play this move? Because after that move, you can castle queenside.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knight to b4 and f6 are the two computer moves, but this is much more human, feels much more natural.
Yeah.
It's much more educational. Much more
Knight to b4.
educational. This is the good move. This is the good
Knight to
human move
b4,
that you like.
what was the other?
f6 that I played, those were the two computer moves, the moves that the computer liked, but bishop e7, I like that much more for a human player. Seems much more educational.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that we're talking about computer moves versus human moves, because some just seem natural to humans, and the computers don't care about what looks natural. You know, they just.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make sure that those people who are still on know that they can send me any questions that they have. People have really enjoyed. There are some people who've had to get off.
Oh,
They're going a little bit long, but
sorry.
so far I don't have any questions from anybody. So this is your opportunity. Aaron and Jim can continue analyzing their games if there's no questions. Anybody got anything?
We
It's been
can plow
really
through.
interesting.
It's
I
up to
wanna-
Aaron. We can plow through, or we can just open it up to questions from the audience. It doesn't
No,
matter.
that's what I'm doing. I'm
I think-
opening it up right now.
Uh-huh.
But I don't have anybody who's asked me anything.
All
You know,
right.
nobody has
And
indicated.
so then we can go through, but we can make it a bit quicker, just in case there are any
You
questions.
can, and Noam, did you want
Because
to?
it was a long, slow positional slog for 40 moves.
Right. So now the
Um,
position gets opened up a little bit,
Yeah, and I think I was worried about that.
and now
What
I'm
was that,
prepared
Daryl?
to castle.
One more thing.
Yep.
And that is, I'm happy to leave this open, the Zoom open, if you want to stay on and are willing to play Noam. He's probably interested in doing that, and anybody who's on the Zoom can hang out and watch you or disappear if that's what they want to do. Okay.
Let me do this. Let me just do a little bit of the instruction that I wanted to do.
Oh,
Take any
okay.
questions if they have any, and then
We'll go back.
Any of you guys can challenge me. You have my email address, so you can just send me a request to play, and we'll figure out a time, and then I'll play as long as you want. So we can do that, and so I should stop sharing screen. And okay,
Yeah.
so there are a couple questions I got, guys. I'd like to know how many squares there are.
64.
64, Aaron. That's what everybody says. And it's right and it's wrong. Because
Well, there's also, I mean,
Yeah.
this whole board
you-
is a square,
Yes.
right?
plus there's,
And any 4 makes a square, and then any,
right.
yes, and then any
Or-
12 makes a square.
There's all sorts of squares here. So, but that's it. 64 is the right answer in the sense that it's 8 by 8. 8 times 8, 64. That's 64 squares. And actually 64 comes up a lot in chess. People name themselves 64 Aaron, or Aaron 64, because 64 squares are really what we play the game on. But the reason I wanted to make the point that there are other squares is that chess is a game. It started as a game of warfare. People who couldn't make war had to have a pastime that simulated war. So chess was developed for that reason. But chess has so many other elements that are part of it. And part of it is geometry. And this is something that is underestimated and is often overlooked when you're teaching chess. It's geometry because this is a square. And you could break up. And when I'm visualizing games in my head, I'm often just looking at a portion of the board. I'm not thinking about the rest of the thing because it's immaterial. The action is down here, or the action is up here. So That's where I'm concentrating. That's all I'm caring about. And so why do I think that a square is important? Well, we were talking about rooks, right? This is a rook. How does a rook move, Aaron?
Up and down along files and ranks. So you move it to the left, you move it to the right.
Up and down, side to side. Okay, so rooks form squares. What else can they form? What other geometrical term would you use besides square?
Rectangles.
Rectangles. Rooks.
And lines.
However, rook is really squares and rectangles, because you don't go, oh, rook goes up or a rook goes down. When you're playing chess, you're really thinking about rook up and rook over, something like that, and then rook up and then rook over again. So if you really think about it in geometric terms, you really get another look into the power of the rook. And it's very interesting to me to think of it that way. Now, how does a bishop move? Noam.
Diagonally.
So the bishop moves this way. Any number of squares, unless it runs out of squares or encounters another piece, right? But look at it this way. When it comes here, it can come here, it can come here. And if we just assume a base here, what's it making? In terms of geometry.
Triangle.
So making a triangle. So the bishop can be thought of as making triangles. And you think about it, I want to get from here to here. I have to create a triangle. So if you think about it, I want to get from here to here, I have to make a triangle. It's another way to look at it, and it kind of opens up your mind to the power of the pieces. And now the queen is nothing more than the combined powers of the rook and bishop. It can go side to side, up and down, along the diagonals. So it can make squares, rectangles, triangles. That's why it's so powerful. It can make any kind of geometric shape it wants. Now, this is the part that really interests me. What about a knight? How would you describe a knight? How does a knight move?
Sort of an L shape, 2 over, 1 down. And it's sort of like, it's all
one back, like an L.
Yeah.
That's what everybody says. That's how it's always taught. Well, look at this white square that this knight is on. And look, where can it move? To dark squares.
Yeah, they're all dark squares.
Only. So what am I pointing at here? That's a circle. It's the power of a knight is a circle. So you try to explain this, it goes 2 squares up and 1 over. People go, huh? But when you say white square to dark square in a circle, it makes people look at the knight entirely differently. Now, I love knights. Everybody tells me the 2 bishops are more valuable than the 2 knights. Depends on the position. And you can create the only kinds of positions that you like. You can create open games where you want the bishops. You can create closed games where the knights are better. It's up to you. What type of player are you? What kind of piece do you prefer? Do you like circles? Do you like squares? What do you like? You got to figure that out for yourself. I can't tell you what you like. So if you're a triangle kind of guy, you like the bishops. If you're a circle kind of guy, you like the knights. Go ahead. Sorry.
If I could just jump in one moment, we wanted to shout out Eva Schragus, who's on this call for, I saw at the beginning she had her chessboard out in front of her. So we saw that. I saw that, Eva, and wanted to say thank you for
Thank you. Can I say something?
Of course.
I have a couple of things. So first of all, I'm a very tactile person. I actually really have to see it in front of me. And I was really scared that James was going to play all 3 people at the same.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Yeah, you muted.
The other thing is, if you remember, Noam, my mother was a grandmaster who had played Boris Spassky to a draw.
Oh, loud.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I am the weakest chess player in my family. And I got my sister on from Boston, but she had to leave because she was frustrated at lack of female participation. And she said it was just too slow for her. But whatever.
We were
I
playing
don't know what
5-minute
her
games.
rating is. Excuse me?
5-minute games are very fast.
Well, but a traditional chess tournament is played at traditional chess speeds, which can be very slow. It can be as interesting as watching grass grow or paint dry. You know, so I can understand people looking at it and go, what's going on here? That's
On the other hand, I used to take Noam's brother, after my mother had died, I used to take Noam's brother and my son to chess tournaments. And actually I'm playing on a board that my mother took the kids to. I never knew that chess could be so exciting as watching Sweet play the last part of a tournament where they just stopped with the writing and they were standing, and it was, my adrenaline was, it was like a horse race that was nose to nose.
I'll tell you, when you're playing master level chess in a tournament, they have this term, the grandmaster diet, because you actually lose weight. Your heart rate is up. You're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly. You're just, so wired. And so people don't understand that it's not just a mental game, it's a physical game as well. It's really for the young. You don't see any great grandmasters in their 50s and in their 60s, like a guy like me. I'm done. I'm toast when compared to these kids who nowadays are as strong as I was ever, yet they're young. They can take the competition, they can take the tension. And when you finish one game, guess what? Grab a bite, you got another game to go. That's hard to do when you get into your 50s. When I was, in my early 20s, piece of cake, no problem. Oh yeah, I lost 5 pounds, so what? Now, I'm a basket case. I can't go to work on Monday. No way. So, this is the thing that's overlooked. And that's why a lot of chess players now talk about chess as a sport, because that physical aspect of the game is very, very real. The world champion now, Magnus Carlsen, is in his 20s. Gary Kasparov before him was the greatest player, I think, in the game. And he became the world champion in his 20s. So all these guys in their 50s and 60s, they have accumulated more knowledge, but they don't have the stamina to compete at that level. But the thing about chess is it's not just a sport, it's also science, because you can learn and study and become extremely good at making moves that the computer likes, not just other humans, but the computer agrees with you. Yes, you made no blunders in that game. Very scientific approach. Go ahead.
So why do you think there are so few females in chess? Not just at BEKI, but in general?
Yeah, that is a really loaded question. I'm going to ask your permission to just make one more final comment, because there's an art to chess as well. Chess is a sport. Chess is a science. Chess is an art as well, because you make beautiful moves. Now the computer can't tell you it's a beautiful move. It's not going to give you a numeric exclamation point for wow, that move is beautiful. But we know beauty when we see it. And you create combinations that just make our mouths drop.
Like knight to b4.
Yeah, like knight to b4. I didn't think of it. Well, I thought of it, but I thought, no, I just take it. He plays bishop takes, not a big deal. I didn't look deep enough. If I looked deep enough, if I saw through c3, I go, man, that's fascinating. Never would have thought of me. Never would have occurred to me. There are Picassos. And the best example of this was world champion at one time, very briefly, but Miguel Tal from Estonia was a master of creating masterpieces. And the person that he played to win the world championship was Miguel Botvinnik, also of the Soviet Union at that time. And he was a very scientific approach. He trained himself physically, he trained himself mentally, and he came to the board prepared. Tal was all over the place. Who knows what he was doing? He could be out gambling and drinking and doing whatever and show up to the board. So there were two different people, but one was science, one was art. And they're both true. And so Chess is all three: sports, science, and art. And I only like the art part of it now. I'm not young enough to play sport-wise. And the science thing never really amused me too much. The art of it always amused me. When I would see something beautiful, I just would fall in love with that game. I would fall in love with the person who created that game. So this is the aspect of chess that it's hard to tell people, why do people fall in love with the game? It's the artistic part of it that they fall in love with, in my opinion. Now, why don't women play? Well, there's the obvious reason that when they come to a tournament, like the Queen's Gambit really made this stand out. The guys just don't think she can play. The guys kind of treat her like, oh, you're going to play so-and-so, you know, don't bother. Don't play in the open section, play in the unrated section. You know, this is the message you get. When you walk into a chess club, I moved around a lot when I was young, and I walk into a new chess club. Chess players don't greet you. They don't say, come up and shake your hand. They don't say, hi, how you doing? They don't ask your name. They ask you your rating.
Yeah.
Chess players want to know, how good are you? That's all they're interested in. It's not a social event. So you walk into a chess room as a male, it's intimidating. Walk in as a woman, it's much more intimidating. And it's not friendly.
Why would it be intimidating?
Because our ratings are extensions of our egos.
So are our ratings. I'm sorry. So I come from a family of females who are completely capable of being chess masters, of being engineers, of leading male teams.
Yes.
What about it would be intimidating?
There's no actual like skill gap between men and women in chess. That's pretty evident from a lot of history. But the actual thing is that based on like the buildup of history and that like all these historical grandmasters that we know about, they're all male because they were highlighted, because they were pushed, because that was the norm at that time. And that sort of built up over time into sort of this norm in chess of how people approach the game. And women weren't put into that. Women weren't part of that norm simply because of the happenstance of just being. I would say like discriminated against in terms of expected, in terms of what was expected of them. So that's
not any different than any other aspect of society.
Yeah.
Well, very good point.
And it's true, and it's true. I mean, the same with that in other aspects of society. There's no gap. It's just a predisposed thing that happened because of history.
I read a book called
Not predisposed
by Eade Orenstein, and she talked about how girls get bullied out of math and science because teachers tend to call on the boys more, and the boys tend to tease the girls. And when that's fine when they're young, but when they get to a certain age, they care about what the boys think about them, and they get bullied. They get teased out of advancing in science, advancing in math. And so this kind of thing is just an extension when we're talking chess. It's the same thing. We have these egos and we want to bully the women, and we want to bully the weaker player too. So it's not just gender. It's anything we can use to bully you, to intimidate you. So when you sit down next to across the board from me, you're already lost because I've psyched you out.
Yes, because because the whole game of chess is a power play. And if the perception societally is that men are the ones in power, then women start already
2 strikes
with, yes, you're already, yes, at a perception disadvantage. And the maintenance of the power is what's, is primal.
Throughout our history, power has been the thing that people have wanted, except there have been artists throughout history as well. There have been musicians throughout history as well. And I am here to tell you that power is a part of chess, and it attracts people interested in power, but it also attracts artists. It also attracts Mikhail Tal's. It attracts people that play it even if they're not feeding themselves properly. They'll skip meals. They won't sleep properly. They'll skip those types of things too, because they just want to keep playing chess because it's a creative output for them. And this is what I found for me was a creative output. If I could create a thing of beauty, man, I felt fulfilled.
Mhm.
So chess is much more than a power game, but it is also a power game. And this is why we have discouraged women throughout the years from participating, because we want to psych you out. Whatever advantage we can get, we will get it. We will use it. And I'm talking about me in my 20s. I was no different. Any advantage I could get, as long as it's by the rules.
So I can understand the artistic temperament and at the master and grandmaster level playing against each other and psyching each other out with hissy fits. What I'm having trouble with is after 60 or 80 years, women still being excluded at the 5th grade through 8th grade level, not just removing themselves, but allowing themselves to be removed because of the guy's attitudes.
Yeah, well, I would recommend you read Schoolgirls, because it's not just chess, it's also math, it's also science. And it's definitely part of our society, and the why is beyond me. But I will tell you what's happening in chess. It's that girls are playing girls at the younger and younger ages. And by the time they get to that age, they're already confident. They know they're good at chess. So they don't care if a boy bullies them or tries
I've been beaten by a girl at a tournament. So yeah. It was a devastating
if they get
loss.
the confidence, if they get the
Wait,
self-confidence.
wait. It was devastating because it was a girl, more so
No, it was
than if it was
it
a
was
boy?
devastating
No,
it was devastating because she played well and I was
Oh.
just crushed positionally.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why.
okay.
I was talking about it in chess terms.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the devastation that we feel when we lose, it can be compounded by other factors, but it's there because our egos are so involved with our performance. And if we win, we feel good about ourselves. And if we lose, we feel crushed.
And that's part of why
Any chess master, they will remember their losses much better, much more frequently than their wins. They could have 70 wins out of 100. So 30 losses that they'll remember, because that's the ones that get to you. That's the one you carry around. That's the one you go to sleep about, thinking about, dreaming about. And I'm speaking from experience. It's not the wins. That's a very fleeting feeling. It's the losses that stay with you. And that's a character development. That's also a good thing about chess. Teaching chess to children is very good because it's character development. You teach them to shake your hand of your opponent when they defeated you.
Jim, this is Schoolgirls by Peggy Orenstein.
Yes.
We had a question. Okay.
Yes. Schoolgirls by Peggy Orenstein. She was a Bay Area reporter, but she's written a couple of books now. But that was the one that was on this particular topic that I found fascinating, because it was, I just saw the connection to chess right away. But she was talking about math and science in schools. And that's the primary topic. And she also pointed out that the girls at that age who had the confidence didn't get intimidated. And I tell you that if you teach chess, they get confident. And when they have confidence, it's directly transferable back into the classroom. Oh, algebra is too hard for me? No, I can play chess. Algebra, piece of cake. So this is a wonderful gift to give to a child of either gender. It's a gift that lasts a lifetime. It's a good educational tool when you're young. It's a pleasant pastime when you're an adult. And it's a solace in your old age. You're not thinking about your hospital bills or your doctor's appointments when you're playing chess as an older person.
Thank you so much. I think just because of the time here, not there, but here, we're going to need to wrap up.
I told Rachel that if you start me talking, I don't shut up.
No, that's okay. That's all right. It's fascinating. It's
It
fascinating.
was very enjoyable.
Thank you.
I don't know if there are people who want to stay on longer. I'm willing to keep it open, but I don't think that people should feel that they have to stay on.
No, it's a good wrap-up point.
Yeah.
And I really made the points that I wanted to make coming here to tell you that there are many reasons to play chess, many reasons to teach chess to children. And it's a gift that lasts a lifetime. And to talk about how you can look at things a different way. Not everybody has to look at it the same way. You can look at it from a geometrical point. You can look at it as a warfare pseudo warfare game. You can look at it different ways. You can look at it as science. You can look at it as art. And you guys just send me an email. You want to play chess anytime.
Thank you.
Noam, do you have anything to say in wrapping up?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming. Couldn't thank all the people who have already left, but and it was great to have you come, Jim. And I will probably actually email you at some point to take you up on that.
Yeah.
That's great. And Jim will send you a link once the recording is up. So if you want to rewatch anything. And thank you, Rachel, for introducing us to Jim.
Thank you, Rachel.
My
It was
pleasure.
wonderful. I know that that it was fascinating for me. And yeah, there aren't very many people here, so I won't we won't announce a whole string of programs. I believe next Wednesday, however, is the town hall with Mayor Elliker.
No, I think isn't next week the discussion of the film I'm Not Your
Oh,
Niece?
yes. I'm sorry. I don't have my list in front of me.
Right,
Yes,
and if
next
people want
Wednesday.
to watch the
Yes.
film on their own, great.
Right.
And USYers, it was such a delight to have you on the schmooze. So next
you.
week, we'd love to have you part of the conversation. It's
Yeah.
about a film that's based on a book that James Baldwin never finished writing. And if you want to watch it with Daryl, it's this Sunday at 7:30, right here on
Yeah,
Zoom.
this Sunday at 7:30, I'm gonna screen it on Zoom for anybody who doesn't have access to it on Netflix, Prime, or Hulu, or through Canopy at the library. I've seen it, but I'm happy to show it. You just have to let me know that you want to see it, and I'll set up a Zoom session to do that. So yeah, and then the following week actually is the mayor. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And
I've got
we'll
one
see
last
you.
thing to say.
Oh, sure,
That's-
please.
I'm very angry at Rachel because you can tell I got older, but I can't tell that she did. It's not fair.
Oh, you're such a
Very
flatterer.
sweet.
Well,
That's sweet.
yes.
Okay.
You're
Good
looking
night.
younger every time I see you. So thank you so
night.
much for
Thank
inviting
you.
me. I really enjoyed myself. It was an evening well spent for me.
Great.
Thank
to
you,
meet you.
Jim. It
Thank you
was
so
such a
much.
pleasure. Good night, everybody.
All right,
Bye.
good night.